Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to another Classic Comics live stream. I hope you're having a good Memorial Day weekend. Been kind of a busy one for me, myself. But let's see, what all have we got on the list here for this podcast or this live stream, excuse me. So, all right, we've got some news around the new Indy movie. As far as some plot details, and even Harrison Ford apparently has admitted that Indy's not going to be all that heroic in this one. The box office projections on The Flash are not looking too good. We'll take a look at that. Uh, we'll take a look at the casting news for the Fantastic Four. There's a alleged cast list for the Fantastic Four that is leaked. We'll talk about that. Also about the casting for Superman Legacy. And Marvel appears to be in decline at the box office. Rotten Tomatoes actually has a chart or graphic they've done that kind of shows that. We'll take a look at that and a few other things. So, first of all, I want to thank everyone listening live during the stream or listening afterwards. So, let's go ahead and get started here. Let me bring up the first article here I'm going to take a look at. Okay. This is from Bounding into Comics by John F. Trent. And again, this is a website I highly recommend. All right, so Harrison Ford admits Indiana Jones is not so strong, not so brave, not so attentive in Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Get out of here. Okay. So, actor Harrison Ford, who plays Indiana Jones in the upcoming Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny film, recently described the character as not so strong, not so brave, not so attentive in the film. As reported by YouTuber Price of Reason, Ford, alongside his co star Phoebe Waller Bridge, spoke with Fandango, where they provided a ton of information about their characters and the film. At one point in the interview, hold on, there we go. At one point in the interview, Ford is asked what Indiana Jones has been up to, with the interviewer positing he's been spending most of his days in the classroom rather than out in the world adventuring. Ford responds, I think he has been teaching for however many years. He's a bit dispirited with teaching. His students are not keen with archaeology necessarily, and they're kind of loafing through his classes, and I suppose he is as well. And he's now forced to retire by, I suppose, the rules at Hunter College, and they are bringing somebody else in to be the head of the archaeology department, and he has no real future in mind for himself. Later in the interview, Ford is asked, can you talk about revisiting Indiana Jones and any joy that you found in that? He answered, there's great joy in playing the character. I'm familiar with the character. I've enjoyed playing the character. I've had great writing to support the character's behavior and the sense of who he is. But now we are taking him into the twilight of his life and his career. We're seeing him not so strong, not so brave, not so attentive, but about to go on a grand adventure with a very fascinating set of compatriots and adversaries. Reacting to these comments from Ford, Price of Reason said, now, is it just me or does this not sound very promising? I mean, how can Indiana Jones suddenly be some miserable, old, washed up man that's not brave anymore? Being brave is kind of Indiana Jones's thing, he asserts, and him being old doesn't automatically mean he has to be a bum. The YouTuber adds, if this is what they are going to do with his character, why even bother making this film at all? And to state the obvious, why do all these movies, especially the ones under Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy, all have to tear down a male hero who used to be good and brave, but now he's just a bum? He's just a big loser. Yeah, he's getting the Jake Skywalker treatment. Effectively, is what this sounds like. And of course, there's always some woman showing up to outshine him and put him in his place. It's just so repetitive and stupid at this point. We've already seen this with Star Wars. We've seen this with Willow. Now, Yes, it's Indiana Jones's turn. Yep. The hold on, let me get rid of that. Okay. The official synopsis for the film reads: Harrison Ford returns to the role of the legendary hero archaeologist for this highly anticipated final installment of the iconic franchise, a big globe-trotting, rip-roaring cinematic adventure. Starring alongside Ford are Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Antonio Banderas, John Rhys-Davies, Shawnette Renee Wilson, Thomas Kretschmann, Toby Jones, Boyd Holbrook, Olivier Richters, Ethan Isidore, and Mads Mikkelsen. Directed by James Mangold and written by Jez Butterworth and John Henry Butterworth and David Kopp and James Mangold, based on characters created by George Lucas and Philip Kaufman. The film is produced by Kathleen Kennedy, Frank Marshall, and Simon Emanuel, with Steven Spielberg and George Lucas serving as executive producers. John Williams, who has scored each Indiana Jones since the original, has once again composed the score. The synopsis. Okay, so it's actually John Williams is actually doing the score for this. I didn't realize that. I figured they get someone to just kind of copy his music. Okay, so yeah, like I say, it sounds like he's getting the Jake Skywalker treatment. He's going to be kind of a has been, kind of washed up. And I've got another article here about this. Let me bring that one up here. Can I find that? Hold on a sec here. Oh, there it is. Okay. Alleged Indiana Jones. Let me bring that up right quick. Hey, Masters Maniac Mexico. Thanks for stopping by. Hey, so you're saying, why does it say 7 when it is at 6? Never mind, here I am. Oh, I'm sorry if there's confusion. I'm pretty sure I put, let me see here. I'm pretty sure I had put it out at 7. I have done it 6 before. Um, I did do 6 last week, I think. So I'm sorry if the change in time threw you. But thank you for stopping by anyway. Oh, you say it's the time shift. Okay. It's timey wimey, wibbly wobbly, that sort of stuff. Okay, so anyway, we got another article here. Alleged Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny plot leak claims Phoebe Waller-Bridge's character makes the heroic choice to knock out Indiana Jones to protect history. So this is spoilers. So if you don't want to be spoiled by this plot detail, I probably should have said that before, right? Then you may not want to hear this. So, an alleged plot leak for Lucasfilm's upcoming Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny film claims that Phoebe Waller Bridges' Helena character is the one who makes the critical heroic decision because Indiana Jones refuses to do so. Not only does she make the heroic decision, but the decision is punching Indiana Jones and knocking him out. According to Reddit user Lunik Jones, I guess that's how you say that, who shared what he claims is, quote, a full plot synopsis for the film. At the end of the film, Mads Mikkelsen's Dr. Jurgen Voller is able to complete the Dial of Destiny and attempts to use it to travel back in time in order to kill Hitler, to prevent Germany from invading Poland and committing this big mistake, which is interesting because, you hear the villains are Nazis, so you assume certain things, and you kind of assume like that this guy wants to get the Dial of Destiny so he can go back in time and prevent Germany from losing World War II. But apparently, he wants to actually go back in time and kill Hitler so that World War II never happens. Interesting twist. However, the Dial of Destiny does not take Voller to Sicily in 1939, but rather transports him, Indiana Jones, and Helena to the Roman siege of Syracuse. Fuller and the rest of the Germans end up dying in a plane crash, while Indy and Helena are able to escape the plane using a parachute. Now, we've seen images like that in the trailer, them jumping out of a plane together, a burning plane. Upon landing on the ground, Indiana Jones encounters Archimedes, who also retrieves the completed Dial of Destiny from the corpse of Voller. Archimedes proceeds to ensure the Dial of Destiny can only transport users to him in Syracuse during the siege, while also obtaining one of Voller's watches, giving him knowledge on the device. Plot synopsis explains as Helena tells him that Archimedes has rigged the dial in order to make sure it only sends people back to Syracuse on the day of the siege so that they could save him. We understand it's thanks to this jump in time that he found his knowledge about the watches and how to complete the dial. From there, Lunick Jones details that Indiana Jones does not want to return to his present, but would rather stay in Syracuse because he believes there is, quote, nothing for him in 1969. In contrast, Helena attempts to convince Indy to return to the present, believing that if he stays in the past, he would change the course of history. Indy is unconvinced by Elena's argument, so she punches him and knocks him out. Of course. When Indy wakes, he's back in 1969 in New York City in his bed. He then reproaches Helena for having brought him back to the present, although there is nothing for him there. However, Helena counters there is something for him to continue living for, and Marion shows up in his apartment with groceries. The film earlier made it clear that Marion and he were divorced or on the brink of divorce. The two eventually appear to reconcile, whatever contrived issue the film gives them to have them embrace in a kiss, with the plot synopsis explaining they reenact the boat scene from Raiders in reverse before Indy kisses her. Yeah, that feels very much like a rewrite, doesn't it? They establish that they're getting divorced at the beginning of the film. Then at the end of the film, she just shows up out of nowhere, and it's like nothing happened. Finally, the film reportedly ends with a shot of Indiana Jones's hat on a drawing line outside the apartment, with what appears to be Jones's hand grabbing it off the line as the camera zooms onto the hat. In a small circle similar to old Warner Brothers cartoons. Lunick Jones details the screen reduces to a small circle, circling the hat and appearing to end there just before we see Indy's hand uh, getting the hat back inside the end. Yeah, that sounds very much like it was tacked on from during a rewrite or a reshoot. It's not surprising that Indiana Jones would not make the heroic decision and have that be left to Phoebe Waller-Bridges' character. Ford described his character. Well, I already talked about that. On top of Ford admitting his character now lacks courage, bravery, and strength, Lucasfilm has also been captured by feminist ideology that derides male characters. Back in 2015, Lucasfilm President Kathleen Kennedy admitted to embracing this ideology throughout the company. She said during Fortune magazine's Most Powerful Women Summit, the fact that the company was bought by the Walt Disney Company has been amazing because they very much support the fact that we are trying to grow in the workforce a number of women in executive positions and in all positions inside the company. And with the movies that we are making and with the protagonists that we are putting in the stories, I get a huge amount of support with that, she continued. Kennedy then touted, but we have 50% of our executive team are women, and 6 out of 8 of the people in my story group are women. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that would be surprised that we're making Star Wars movies, and the majority of the people involved in the development are women. And I think it's making a huge difference in the stories that we're trying to tell. Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, it's definitely making a difference. Kennedy wasn't wrong when she admitted this embrace of feminine ideology was making a huge difference. Audiences have abandoned many of Lucasfilm's iconic properties, and even the Walt Disney Company is admitting much of it is not good. Most recently, a report indicated that the Walt Disney Company was pulling the Disney Plus series Willow from the platform just 6 months after its finale. This report came after the company's CEO, Bob Iger, admitted many of the Disney Plus series they created were, quote, not necessarily driving sub growth, unquote. In other words, nobody is watching it. In fact, Iger detailed that the company would, quote, take an impairment charge of approximately 1.5 to 1.8 billion for the content they would be removing from Disney Plus and Hulu. As defined by Indeed, an impairment charge is a cost that shows a reduction in the carrying value of a specific asset on a balance sheet. This occurs when an asset's book value exceeds its fair value in the market, according to generally accepted accounting principles. While many assets can suffer from impairment charges, the most commonly impaired assets are intangible assets, inventory, goodwill, and even capital. Not only are Lucasfilm's productions being removed from Disney Plus and being accounted as impairment charges, but under Kennedy's leadership, Lucasfilm lost money at the box office on the Star Wars film Solo, a Star Wars story. Hashtag Solo lost money. Masters Maniac says The Flash, Indy, their solution for everything is time travel now. This is lame, and what makes it all worse are these activists. Six so these activists are using so-called stars like Ezra. It's a stone cold no for me. Well, yeah, I mean, time travel doesn't really belong in an Indiana Jones movie. It's the first three films clearly established the Indiana Jones films as having supernatural elements, religious elements, but not really any sci-fi elements of that sort. But then in the fifth or the fourth movie, of course, with the aliens they had in that and the flying saucer, and now time travel in this, it's kind of weird. And I'm not even going to guess at to how this Antikythera mechanism works. I mean, how does basically making a fancy, elaborate watch in the Stone Age make you time travel? I don't know. And it can only take you back to one specific point in time. I don't. What's the point? What's the point of that? Okay. So Disney sequel trilogy also saw massive declining returns at the box office, with The Force Awakens bringing in 2.064 billion. By the third film in the trilogy, The Rise of Skywalker, the film only grossed 1.072 at the global box office. Following this decline, Star Wars has been relegated to the Disney Plus streaming series, and the company has announced numerous films only to have them never come to fruition. Yeah. I expect this to be bad. I've expected it to be bad for a while. Like I say, it's going to be the Force or Last Jedi all over again. It's going to be Harrison Ford getting the Jake Skywalker treatment. It's going to be really, really annoying, really disappointing. It's going to be interesting to see how this movie does. I expect it to have a pretty big opening weekend, but I suspect it's going to tail off pretty quick because word's going to get around, and I don't think it's going to be positive word. And I don't know. Supposedly, this film's going to have to make around 1 billion in order to make money. It'll be interesting to see if it's able to actually pull that off. All right. Let me get rid of that. And speaking of Disney, I've got a few more Disney related stories here, so we'll go ahead and look at those. Let me bring this up. Okay. The Little Mermaid Chinese state-run media warns Disney to stop pushing racism narrative around fairy tales or they will lose their quote magic glory unquote. Now this is interesting. The Chinese government is apparently criticizing Disney for making racism such a big part of their stories. So, an article in China's Global Time, an English language outlet run by the Communist Party of China, warns the Walt Disney Company to stop pushing a racism narrative around The Little Mermaid and other classic fairy tales, or they will end up losing their magic glory. In an article published this week, Global Times specifically called out the Disney Company for pushing, quote, political correctness with the casting of Halle Bailey as Ariel in The Little Mermaid. They claim Disney's decision to cast a person of color as the lead in The Little Mermaid seemingly was made to break stereotypes and promote equality, but so far the negative reactions outweigh the positive ones. This begs the question of whether Disney's political correctness actions are motivated by capital interest or genuine concern for representation. The outlet went even further by insinuating that the Walt Disney Company is the one creating and spreading the racism narrative surrounding the film. The controversy surrounding Disney's forced inclusion of minorities in classic films is not about racism, it's lazy and irresponsible storytelling strategy. It then questions if the company truly wants to represent marginalized groups, why not create original stories that reflect their experiences instead of turning classic tales into sacrificial lambs for political correctness? They even warned Disney to stop going down this path. When the beautiful stories that have accompanied countless children's childhoods become arenas for racial conflict, they lose their meaning and become devoid of romance and fantasy, replaced by arguments about skin color. If Disney continues following this path, audiences, especially innocent children, will no longer care if the prince and princess live happily ever after, but what is the skin color of the prince and princess, and the fairy tale will lose its magic, the Global Times concluded. Not only did the Global Times warn Disney to stop pursuing this tragedy or pursuing this strategy, in another article published earlier this week, they also noted that the controversy that they insinuate is being created by Disney is being used by American leftists to push political correctness on Chinese audiences. Boy, isn't that an irony? American leftists pushing political correctness on Chinese communists. That's like that's like that's like some sort of weird like commie inception. The article begins by discussing recently reported poor sales in China for The Little Mermaid. It notes that ticketing site Maoyan reported that the film had only sold 85,000 worth of tickets as of Thursday. So that's in China, I guess. The article alleges that a number of people are using these poor pre-sales to target Chinese moviegoers and accuse them of racial discrimination. Not only does it claim they are using the poor pre-sales to make accusations of discrimination, but also claims the accusation is done, quote, to impose their politically correct standards on Chinese audiences and use this to sow discord between China and African groups. From there, it also points to a poster for The Little Mermaid depicting actress Halle Bailey with blue skin, while a U.S. poster shows her with her natural skin color. It specifically claims that numerous commentators are using the posters to hint that Chinese audiences are racist. It also asserts that Walt Disney released a Chinese version of the US poster. And this is the poster in question here. As you can see in it, she's kind of, she's bathed in this kind of blue light, which of course makes sort of covers her skin shade. So you can't tell what her skin is. Is that deliberate? Is it I mean, I don't know. The article goes on to declare the vast majority of Chinese audiences do not have any bias against a black Little Mermaid and would rather evaluate the film based on its own merits. It then specifically takes aim at American leftists, saying that, quote, they are imposing their own politically correct values on Chinese audiences. Yeah, they will do that. They will definitely do that sort of thing, expecting them to embrace the film the same way as Western audiences have. This expectation is unreasonable since Chinese don't have such political correctness, as the country's modern history is more about being invaded by Westerners rather than colonizing or oppressing Black people. Instead, China has always maintained brotherly relations with Africa and has never needed an atonement mentality prevalent in Hollywood. After discussing China's relations with African countries, it concludes by making another accusation. Western white leftist netizens using their political correctness to kidnap Chinese audiences is naked cultural hegemony. The article finishes. Some people simply don't have a clue how to reflect on themselves, but only stand on a so called moral high ground to criticize others. Damn, they're dropping some they're dropping some straight cold facts here, aren't they? Colonizing a group of people on Earth and then yelling at another group for not sharing its own guilty conscience. How convenient to always be the right one. Global Times had previously published an article in 2019 discussing Bailey's casting as Ariel and asserted that Chinese audiences aren't buying into the casting decision. They added, although some Chinese netizens think Bailey is beautiful and sweet, they generally hold the opinion that the casting choice is a disruption of the character, who originally appeared as a white princess with red hair in the Disney cartoon. Yeah, like I say, I mean, this one, a lot of irony here. It's basically one group of leftists accusing another group of leftists of racism, and that other group of leftists accusing the first group of leftists of being, I don't know, colonizers or imperialists or whatever. Okay, enough of that. And got a little more with Disney here. This is an interesting story, so let me bring this up. And actually, I should say this is the MCU specifically. All right, so Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness star Elizabeth Olsen admits Marvel sequels suffered from constant rewrites. There's a point in making the movie where I just stopped reading drafts. Yeah, I'll bet. To the surprise of no one who saw the final product, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness star Elizabeth Olsen has revealed that the Marvel sequel production suffered heavily from a seemingly never ending stream of script rewrites. Yeah, it was pretty obvious that Thor Love and Thunder and Quantumania had those problems too. The Scarlet Witch actress opened up about the film's screenplay woes during a recent appearance on the May 24th episode of entertainment journalist Josh Horowitz's Happy, Sad, Confused podcast. For a recap of the episode provided by Cosmic Book News, Olsen was at one point asked by her host if she had any thoughts on the film's final cut compared to the original script. The actress opined, "It resembled more than I thought it was going to be," whatever that means. I mean, there were definitely moments where there's a point in making the movie where I just stopped reading drafts, she admitted. I was just like, this is going to change again. Just keep me posted with the information I need, and you guys fill in the blanks that you need, but I'll just stay in my lane. That one was a wild ride. One such change, she confirmed, was that James Bond star Daniel Craig had once been tapped to play Thor's half brother, Balder the Brave. Yeah, that's what I thought was going to happen, noted the actress. I saw the art, they made a costume, they had a design. I'd never heard about this before. Daniel Craig was going to be Balder. However, while Olsen was light on the specific details regarding every single change that took place over Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness's production, previous leaks and press tours surrounding the film provided some insight into the Supreme's rough journey. Things began spiraling out of control for the film in January of 2020 when it was announced that returning Doctor Strange director Scott Derrickson had exited the project over alleged creative differences. From there, Marvel would eventually tap original Sony Spider Man trilogy director Sam Raimi to pick up the reins. Subsequently, the esteemed filmmaker would make the bold decision to turn Olsen's Scarlet Witch into the film's villain. I mean, was that really his decision? This creative move would result in a bevy of reshoots, which, according to America Chavez actress Xochitl Gomez, I hope I'm saying this right. I don't know. Xochitl Gomez, because I actually had a coworker at one point that had that name too, and I think that's how she pronounced it. Were so extensive that when all was said and done, the film's opening sequence was completely different compared to how it was originally written. In the film's most notorious change, Kevin Feige drove a stake through the film's attempt at continuity when he made the decision to cut a cameo from Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange in WandaVision in order to avoid diverting attention away from the complicated female character in favor of a white male. Quote, some people might say, oh, it would have been so cool to see Doctor Strange, but it would have taken away from Wanda. The baseball cap clad Marvel boss told Rolling Stone's Bryant Hyatt. We didn't want the end of the show to be commoditized to go to the next movie. Here's the white guy. Let me show you how power works. And to put the cherry on this disastrous behind the scenes Sunday, according to Charlize Theron, her cameo as Clea was haphazardly thrown into the film's mid credit scene with no apparent thought given to her future to serve as nothing more than a shiny object with which to distract fans. Asked funnily enough by Horowitz, "What's the Marvel future? What's the plan? Do you know when you're popping up next?" Theron admitted, "I don't know. I haven't gotten a call." Is that bad? The actress then laughed. No, I'm not lying. I'm not lying. I haven't gotten a call. As of writing, it is unknown whether or not Olsen will ever reprise her role as Wanda Maximoff following her apparent death at the end of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Masters Maniac Mexico says Thor, Lure and Plunder was a spit in the face of the Nordic culture, just like The Little Mermaid is. I'm very sorry, but The Little Mermaid is a creation of Danish author Hans Christian Andersen, and Danes happen to be white. Yeah, did he was that actually his creation? I mean, I kind of figured I know he's the one it's generally accredited to, but I always kind of assumed he just kind of adapted a pre-existing fairy tale. Kind of like I think like the Brothers Grimm did. I think a lot of these were already stories that existed, but maybe weren't written down. I don't know. As of this writing, oh no, I said that. Okay. Likewise, a future appearance by Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange has yet to be confirmed by Marvel Studios, though it is likely he will at least appear in the upcoming Avengers Kang Dynasty, if not also Avengers Secret Wars. Okay, so you say I was right, it was an urban tale. Okay, yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Um, I assume a lot of these old European folk tales probably started out, uh, as an oral being passed down from generation to generation orally, and before it was written down. And of course, it's fair that the person who wrote it down first gets the credit, I guess. Um, I mean, it isn't like Homer actually created the Iliad. It was around before him, most likely. He's just the guy who wrote it down. Okay. So anyway, yeah, we've heard before about the screenwriting process at Star Wars, at Lucasfilm, and at Marvel Studios as well. And it's obvious that they do this quite a bit. There's lots of rewrites, lots of reshoots. Okay, so Masters Maniac Mexico says you can find the mermaid twice in Europe. The first one you find at the entrance of the harbor of Copenhagen, and the second one at the spring of the Rhine River. Interesting. Okay, so that is, I mean, I assume those are sculptures, right? Are they like wood or stone sculptures? Now, but as to the writing, you saw it in Quantumania, you saw it in Thor: Love and Thunder. I mean, they seem to have a very sloppy, haphazard approach to writing films now, and I think it's part of what's hurting them. I think as they've drifted more and more left, and they've put more and more feminism and CRT and other leftist stuff into their movies. They do that, then they shoot the movie, then they take them to test audiences, and the test audiences don't like this crap and give the movie low ratings or low approval. And then they start this process of trying to rewrite scenes and change scenes and alter the movie in order to get a better reaction. And of course, that leads to a rather convoluted or kind of muddled narrative and movies that don't do as well. All right, that's enough of that one. Okay, let's talk about the next Captain America movie, because I think that's really kind of the next. Well, I mean, some would say it's the Marvels. I think that's probably a bit of a stretch. But the next Captain America movie is kind of the next big solo film, solo character film. Although it already sounds like this is going to be more of a kind of ensemble cast, with a lot of characters in it. So this is from Collider. Let me bring this up. And again, this may get spoilery. So if you don't want these details. I don't think it's going to get into plot details necessarily beyond maybe actors who are playing particular roles and that sort of stuff, but I thought I should warn you anyway. Okay, so Captain America New World Order, cast, release date, plot, and everything we know so far. And I've heard that that title's changed, hasn't it? It seems like I heard they were dropping the New World Order title and changing it to something else. Probably because with the current state of the world, it kind of it kind of hits a little too close to reality. Okay, so the latest adventure of our favorite Star Spangled Hero will be coming soon to the big screen. Captain America New World Order will follow Anthony Mackie as Sam Wilson continues to take on the mantle after the events of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. At San Diego Comic Con in 2020, the new installment of the Captain America film series was announced as an upcoming chapter of the MCU's Phase 5, of which Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige revealed a slate of projects in the works and mapped out. Of course, that schedule has changed since then. We last saw Sam Wilson coming into his own as the new Captain America in Falcon and the Winter Soldier with the help of Sebastian Stan's Bucky Barnes, whom he grows to trust and befriend over time despite their initial dislike for one another. Emily Van Camp starred as Sharon Carter, former SHIELD agent and niece of Peggy Carter. It also introduced Wyatt Russell as the faux Captain America, John Walker, who turned into the villainous U.S. agent. He's not villainous. He's not villainous. Stop that. Returning from Captain America Civil War, Daniel Brew appeared as the classic Captain America villain Baron Zemo. But not all series cast members have been announced to return for the film. There's been a lot of speculation. Here's what we know about Captain America New World Order below. Who will be directing Captain America New World Order? Julius Ona, who previously directed films such as Luce or Luce and the Cloverfield Paradox, will lead. Ona has previously said to Collider, I'm really excited to see this man go from a counselor as an ex-army vet to a Falcon, to a Falcon, to Captain America and bring that set of experiences and that point of view into the decision making that one has to make as this incredibly powerful character in the MCU. I mean, I don't think he literally becomes a Falcon, but whatever. Okay, when will Captain America be released? It's scheduled for release on May 3rd, 2024. And again, that's probably changed since this was printed because of the financial problems that Disney and Hollywood in general are having. Lots of projects are getting pushed back and delayed or canceled altogether. Okay, what is the plot of Captain America New World Order? So far, plot details have been kept under wraps in true Marvel fashion, but when speaking about the film at the San Diego Comic Con, director Julius Ona described the film as, quote, a paranoid thriller. It seems more and more likely that New World Order will follow in the footsteps of Captain America Winter Soldier, one of the most critically acclaimed movies in the MCU, which took inspiration from 1970s political espionage thrillers like 3 Days of the Condor. And of course, that had Robert Redford, who was in 3 Days of the Condor, in it. Diving into broken political systems and government distrust has been key themes that have been explored in the Captain America films. Still, it remains to be seen what kind of fascist conspiracy Sam Wilson will face. Interesting that they just assume it's a fascist conspiracy. Yeah, they know that's what it's going to be. We all do. You don't need to assume anything else, right? Harrison Ford is taking on the role of General Thaddeus Ross after the passing of William Hurt, who portrayed the character in 4 films. Wilson and Ross have a history because, if you remember, Ross threw Wilson in prison at the end of Civil War because he violated the Sokovia Accords. Executive producer Nate Morris said Sam Wilson would clash with Ross in the film. When we spoke to Moore about the film, he said, well, look, Sam Wilson's Captain America. He's going to bring his own team to play. There will be some natural sparks there, which I think will be really fun. Okay, so the cast. The newly Star Spangled Man with the Plan, Captain America, will be played by Anthony Mackie as they reprise their roles from the Falcon and Winter Soldier series. Dana Ramirez and Carl Lumbly will return as Joaquin Torres and Isaiah Bradley, respectively. Two actors from The Incredible Hulk will revisit their roles, including Tim Blake Nelson as the leader and Liv Tyler as Betty Ross, the daughter of Thunderbolt Ross. Interesting that they're bringing them into it. You know, it's almost, in a way, this is almost more like a Hulk movie than it is a Captain America movie. Harrison Ford was announced to take over the role of Ross in 2022. In an interview with The Hollywood Reporter, Ford revealed why he took on the role. I watch all these terrific actors having a good time in Marvel movies. I like doing something different to what I've done and pleasing people, so I'll try a piece of that. And I'm sure that the big payoff had nothing to do with it. Okay, Shira Haas, who received widespread critical acclaim for her role in Netflix's Unorthodox, will join the cast as Sabra, Marvel's first Israeli superhero and comic book character, and notably a mutant. Um, well, I mean, originally, I'm sure she's probably a mutant in the comics now. They've made a lot of characters mutants in order to increase their popularity by linking them with the X-Men. But originally, she was not a mutant. What was her deal? She had like a magic cape that let her fly, and then she had these bracelets that fired some kind of needles or something. I don't remember. And last but not least, Julia Louis-Dreyfus will be reprising her role as Contessa Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, stirring up trouble for our heroes. Sebastian Stan will not be returning as Bucky Barnes in the film because the Winter Soldier will be part of the Thunderbolts film, starring a team led by Val or Julia Louis-Dreyfus. WWE star Seth Rollins has also joined the film in an undisclosed role, but many speculate he will be playing a villain. So I mean, I don't know, but I'm guessing what you're going to see is Ross is going to turn out to be the villain, and I don't know. Maybe he'll be working with other parties, or maybe he's just going to turn out to be crazy or something. But he'll be the bad guy, or at least connected to the bad guys in some way, trying to overthrow the government or whatever. It'll be interesting to see how this one is received. You know, with Mackie now playing Cap, especially if Marvel films continue struggling. I mean, I fully expect the Marvels to do poorly. And then we have another Captain America 4 related, or actually a couple more. Let me bring those up here. Okay, Captain America 4 plot details hinted at by Sam Wilson's new stealth suit. Okay, so new plot details from Captain America New World Order, and this is from Screen Rant, by the way. Get hinted at by Sam Wilson's new stealth suit. Anthony Mackie will get to lead his first Marvel Cinematic Universe solo movie with Captain America New World Order. Mackie's Sam Wilson has mostly been a supporting player in the MCU so far, but that changed when Chris Evans's Steve Rogers messed with time, deciding to stay with Peggy in the past only to return to the present day MCU as an old man. Steve then passed on his shield to Sam, indicating that the new Captain America had been chosen. Mackie Sam Wilson then had a tumultuous road to become the new Captain America, with the character having to face challenges in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series before he could assume the Captain America mantle. By the end of the series, Sam Wilson finally accepted the hard task of becoming Steve Rogers' successor, donning a different suit from those of Evans's character, a perfect recreation of Sam's suit from the comics. And that's right. It's interesting that this is one of the most comic book accurate suits. Let's see. However, when Matt leads the Captain America New World Order last year, he will apparently do so in a new suit. A Captain America New World Order set photo revealed Sam Wilson's new blue suit for the movie. The choice is a major departure from the comic book accurate depiction of the white Captain America suit donned by Sam at the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And I guess here they have a photo. I can I bring that up? Come on. Man, this thing is slow. Okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and honor. Gone is the prominent white of the suit in favor of a darker blue, with the change making Sam Wilson's suit look similar to Steve Rogers' stealth suit from Captain America the Winter Soldier. The headpiece is no longer present in the suit, although Sam's new attire seems to retain the pattern of the Falcon suit. One of Captain America the Winter Soldier's most exciting aspects was the sequence at the start of the film with Cap and Black Widows infiltrating a ship. Sam's new costume could mean that the film will be returning to that kind of story for the hero's first solo outing as Captain America. More stealth missions in Captain America New World Order are exactly what Sam Wilson needs. Are they? I mean, I guess. The hero does not possess the powers of Steve Rogers from the super soldier serum, so the MCU needs to look for a fresh angle for Sam. Well, that's true. I mean, they should take a slightly different approach to him. Having more stealth missions in the Captain America movie is great for Sam, as the character will get the chance to bring back a fan favorite aspect of Evans's time as Cap while expanding on it. Besides, the MCU is undergoing its multiverse saga in Captain America. Bringing the franchise back to basics with a more grounded story would be perfect to help balance out Marvel's current output. The multiverse is a wonderful storytelling device, however, it can get a bit overwhelming and even tiresome. So, the new Captain America possibly having a more stealth approach would help keep the MCU from getting stale. The story is going to be bringing back some characters that have not appeared in the MCU in a long time. And we talked about that in the last article. The leader will be coming back. Betty Ross will be coming back. Um, and they mentioned here she also connects to another major returning character. That would be, of course, Ross, who's going to be the president in this movie. Ross has been confirmed to be the president of the United States in the film, which helps give Sam Wilson's first Captain America movie a political through line to help balance out the more fantastic elements that come with the inclusion of what would be a somewhat Hulk focused plot, as the movie's cast suggests. So, did that image ever come up? Okay, here. So, can we bring that up? Yeah, so you kind of see there, it does kind of look more like the outfit that Chris Evans wore in the second Cap movie. And I like that look. I like that uniform. I don't know if it's right for Falcon necessarily, but it's a good costume. And then I have one more Cap related one. Let me bring this one up right quick. Let's see. We're starting to run down. I'll need to hurry up a little. I didn't realize how many Disney stories I had here. Okay, so Alita Battle Angel actress Rosa Salazar will play Diamondback in Captain America New World Order, rumored to be the leader of the Serpent Society. Of course she is. Um, so Salazar will reportedly play villain Diamondback in the upcoming Captain America A New World Order film. This new report comes from Charles Murphy at Murphy's Multiverse and comes on the heels of a set photo from Twitter user something or other that shows WWE superstar Seth Rollins alongside a female actress. In Murphy's report, he identifies the male actress standing next to Rollins as Salazar. Not only does he identify her as Salazar, but he also notes that she's playing the character Diamondback. For those unfamiliar with Diamondback, the character's real name is Rachel Layton, and she was first introduced in Captain America 310 back in '85 by Mark Grunwald and Paul Neary. In the first issue, Diamondback is introduced as one of the members of the Serpent Society, alongside Constrictor, Sidewinder, Black Mamba, Death Adder, Pinchas Python, Cottonmouth, Bushmaster, the Cobra, the Asp, the Rattler, and Anaconda. And you see this picture here, that's Diamondback right there. The issue also details the goals of the Serpent Society. Basically, Sidewinder wants to create a union or guild for supervillains that will give them greater access to data and tools, guaranteed pay, insurance, medical and pension plans, and of course, the comradeship of like minded people. Those people being criminals who like to wear snake costumes, as one does, of course. However, the biggest benefit he offers is that no member of my organization need ever fear imprisonment again. Yeah, so the thing with Sidewinder is Sidewinder was a teleporter, and the deal he offered to members of the Serpent Society was join our team, you commit crimes for us, and then the group, and of course, probably primarily him, will take a cut of what you get. But if you get caught, if you get thrown in jail, I'll get you out. I'll teleport in and get you out so you don't have to worry about going to jail. It's a pretty novel idea, actually. It definitely was at the time. And of course, in the comics, Sidewinder was the leader of the Serpent Society, not Diamondback. Diamondback was actually a fairly minor character, at least initially. They eventually, over time, she kind of because she wasn't really like evil. She was more of a criminal in like the way of like Catwoman or someone like that. Or she was kind of doing it almost more for thrills and excitement than she was really because she was criminal or she was evil. And eventually, I think she had a change of conscience and kind of became a good guy, sort of. I think she and Cap actually had a thing going for a while. I don't know if I'm remembering that right. As for Diamondback's abilities, she doesn't have any superhuman powers. Rather, she relies on her athleticism and various throwing weapons that she coats with poison and other lethal substances. During a battle with Captain America, she throws a number of the projectiles and even quips, "Hi, Cappy, I'm Diamondback, and these are a girl's best friend." Later in the battle, it's revealed she coats the weapon with poisons, but also physically attracted to Cap as she appears to be on the precipice of incas, incapacitating him. She thinks to herself, the poison on these will wait. Do I really want to do this to such a hunk? She would later abandon the Serpent Society and aid Captain America. Yeah. In battles against Batroc, Machete, Zaran, and Baron Zemo. And she was even captured by Crossbones at one point, but she was able to escape and return to Captain America's side to discover that Red Skull had found a way to cheat death and was still alive. Let's see here. The more recent Marvel comic stories. In more recent Marvel comic stories, Rachel joined a group called a Reformed Serpent Society, going by Serpent Solutions, led by Viper after she turned to to exotic dancing. She would betray Sam Wilson, who was pretending to be Cap, in the place of Steve Rogers by luring him into a fight with Black Racer, Cottonmouth, and Copperhead. After appearing to get beaten down by Black Racer, Diamondback would pretend to be injured until Sam Wilson had made quick work of the Serpent Solution members. She then stabbed him with one of her poisoned daggers. She would eventually have a brief redemption arc and chose to aid Sam Wilson and Joaquin Torres, who would pretend to be the new Falcon, attacking her fellow comrades after they had left Torres for dead and incapacitated Wilson. At defeating her former Serpent Solutions comrades, Diamondback appeared to catch a bus out of town, with Misty Knight claiming she snuck off after the fight. Okay. Interestingly, following Murphy's report that Salazar is playing Diamondback, Scooper My Time to Shine claimed that Salazar's Diamondback is actually the leader of the Serpent Society in the film. So probably what they're going to do is they're going to say that she formed the group. It was her idea and she's the leader, but then Sidewinder's going to usurp her control and basically steal the group from her, because, patriarchy and feminism and all that. I mean, Salazar certainly looks nothing like the character in the comics, but, I don't know. I mean, I like her well enough. She was fine in Alita. Okay, so what else do I want to cover here? I'm already at an hour. Let me cover the Flash because I was supposed to do a couple of Flash stories. And then when those are done, I'll see how much time I got left here. Alrighty. The Flash. The Flash starring Ezra Miller predicted to have anemic $70 million domestic opening weekend. A new report claims that the upcoming Flash film starring Ezra Miller is only expected to bring in 70 million in its domestic opening weekend. The Hollywood Reporter reports the film is, quote, pacing to open in the 70 million range, according to sources who have access to tracking data. Furthermore, their report claims that insiders say it's a soft number for a movie that's been heavily promoted by Warner Brothers Discovery as the best superhero film of all time. Yeah, sure it is. And I mean, and when James Gunn and David Zaslav tell me that it's the greatest superhero film ever made, I totally believe them. I totally believe when they say that. The new report flies in the face of long range tracking predictions from Box Office Pro that predicted the film would gross between 115 million and 140 million in its opening weekend. The outlet explained their predictions at the time, claiming the movie was benefiting from a wave of mostly positive reviews out of early industry screenings, as well as social media support from James Gunn. They also pointed to the nostalgia factor with Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck returning as Batman. Further underpinning positivity in box office prospects is the return of Keaton in his iconic role as Batman, as well as an advertised cameo by Ben Affleck. However, the outlet also detailed that the film starring Ezra Miller and James Gunn's pending reboot of the DC Universe were turning potential moviegoers off. Box Office Pro explained the Flash has the added weight of two key elements: Ezra Miller's well-publicized legal entanglements and the general ambiguity of DC films, as this film features characters from the Snyderverse at a time when fandom is well aware of major reboots ahead under James Gunn's leadership. Recent DC Extended Universe films, which The Flash is technically still part of, have failed at the box office. Most, re- Most recently, Shazam Fear of the Gods had only a $30 million opening weekend. God, was it that bad? Ouch. And went on to gross an abysmal 57.6 million domestically. It had a global haul of just 132.2 million. The film had an estimated production budget of 125 million. God, that's awful. And I liked the movie. I mean, I didn't think it was terrible. Before Shazam Fear of the Gods, Black Adam had an opening weekend of 67 million and went on to gross a total of 168 million domestically. The film only grossed 391 million globally. It had an estimated production budget of 2 million. The James Gunn directed Suicide Squad also fared poorly at the box office. The film had an opening weekend of 26.2 million and grossed just 55.8 million in its domestic run. It grossed 167 million globally. It had a budget of 185 million. Wonder Woman 1984 didn't fare any better. It grossed just 16.7 million in its opening weekend, went on to gross 46.8 million in its domestic run. Globally, it grossed just 166.3. The movie had an estimated 200 million production budget. And then Birds of Prey. God, this is brutal, man. I've forgotten how bad some of these movies did. They have lost so much damn money. Oh my God. Yikes. Birds of Prey had an opening weekend of 33 million. It grossed a total of 84.1 million. Globally, it brought in 201 million and had an estimated budget of 82 million. Last time the DCU had a domestic gross over 200 million was 2018's Aquaman. That film had an opening weekend of 67.8 million. It went on to gross 335 million domestically and earned 1.1 billion globally, with China making up a significant portion of the box office to the tune of 291.8 million. As far as DC films grossing more than 100 million in its opening weekend, one has to go back to 2017's Wonder Woman. That movie grossed 103.2 million in its opening weekend. It went on to earn 412 million domestically and globally made 817.6 million. Put this in perspective. Oh God. The Eternals was the most recent Marvel cinematic film to have an opening weekend below 100 million. The movie's opening weekend clocked in at 71.2. It finished domestically at 164.8 million. Globally, it made 401.7 million, and the movie had a $200 million production budget. And one of the most recent releases, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, had an opening weekend of 106 million. It had a domestic run of 214.4 million and worldwide made 463.5 million. The film would lose money for Marvel Studios due to the film's estimated $200 million production budget. If this new report is accurate, The Flash has its work cut out for it and will have to really have long legs at the box office. However, it will have stiff competition. Spider Man Across the Spider Verse arrives in theaters 2 weeks ahead of The Flash on June 2nd, and a week before the film comes out sees the release of Transformers Rise of the Beasts. The film will get a reprieve the week after it releases, as there is not a big blockbuster contender. On June 30th, however, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny releases, although that might have its own struggles at the box office. Then on June 12th, the film will come up against Tom Cruise and Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. And not only does the film face stiff competition, but the film reportedly has an enormous production budget. While the numbers reports the film's production budget is 200 million, Gary Beekler at Neurotic detailed that a number of sources informed him that the film needs to make at least $1 billion to turn a profit. He explained, according to people, not one person, we're going to say two people, who work directly with Warner Brothers in this realm of superheroes, this is the most expensive movie ever made. Now, I did not get the distinction by Warner Brothers or in the history of Hollywood. So your guess is as good as mine. Realistically, we'll probably just say Warner Brothers would still be pretty. We'll probably just say Warner Brothers, which would still be impressive. There's a reported budget, but that's not it. So I was told by these two people it needs to make $1 billion to turn a profit, he added. If this is indeed the case, it's hard to see how The Flash will ever achieve the number if its opening weekend haul is only 70 million. Yeah, I'm surprised it's that low. I would have thought that Keaton coming back as Batman would maybe bring in more people. Um, but I don't know. We'll see. But like the article says, this film's got its work cut out for it. And yeah, and there's another Flash related story here. Let's see, what am I at? I'm right at 8, so I'll probably go to about 8:15, 8:20 before I wrap up here. Okay. So this is from Variety. The Flash actor announced the movie's most shocking cameo that's decades in the making. Michael Keaton isn't the only superhero from DC's past in the upcoming Flash film. During an interview with Esquire Middle East, the Flash director Andy Muschietti revealed that none other than Nicolas Cage is going to make a cameo in the movie as Superman. I'm an Earth defender. It's a shocking and full circle moment for comic book movie fans and Cage, who was cast in Tim Burton's failed Superman Lives 25 years ago. Nick was absolutely wonderful, Muschietti said. Although the role was a cameo, he dove into it. I dreamt all my life to work with him. I hope I can work with him again soon. He is a massive Superman film and a Superman fan and a comic book fanatic, Muschietti added. Nicolas Cage fans know that his love for Superman runs deep. Not only did he play the superhero in Burton's failed project, but he even named his son Kal-El, a reference to Superman's name on his home planet of Krypton. Just how Cage's Superman factors into the plot of The Flash remains to be seen. Well, it's just a cameo. There's probably going to be a scene where The Flash is like skipping through different realities, different universes, timelines, stuff like that, and you'll get like a brief glimpse of him or something like that. There probably won't be a lot to it. The film is set across the DC multiverse, which explains Michael Keaton's return as Batman for the first time since starring in Tim Burton's Batman and Batman Returns. Ben Affleck is also reprising his role as Batman from Zack Snyder's Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, and Justice League. With two versions of Batman and Nicolas Cage's Superman now confirmed for The Flash, there's no telling how many more surprising multiverse cameos we'll be waiting for fans to discover in this film. Oh, maybe we'll see Cavill as Superman. Oh, wait, no, never mind. After launching the Batman movie franchise for Warner Brothers, Tim Burton turned his attention towards Superman in 1988 with the development of Superman Lives. The film was scripted by Kevin Smith and centered on Superman's fight against Doomsday. It was more of a 1980s Superman with like samurai black long hair. Cage recently told Variety about his failed attempt at Superman. I thought it was going to be a really different sort of emo Superman, but we never got there. During the same interview, Cage said, I don't need to be in the NCU. I'm Nick Cage. Yeah, I'm Nick Cage. He may not need the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but Cage has finally closed the loop on his 25-year wait to join the DC Universe. So it'll be interesting to see what form his cameo in this takes. Like I say, it'll probably just be him appearing briefly and it won't figure into the plot in any way. Okay, let me do one more and then we'll wrap up here. Okay, I wanted to talk about the Fantastic Four casting. So let me bring that up. Da-da-da. Okay. So there's been a lot of speculation about who's going to play the Fantastic Four in the new MCU Fantastic Four film. Now, allegedly, a cast list has leaked out. This is from Forbes. Alleged final MCU Fantastic Four cast. So while Marvel is taking their sweet time announcing their Fantastic Four cast for the movie, which right now is supposed to come out in February of 2025, insiders believe they have figured out who the final cast will be. It's a whole lot of talent. This latest leak comes from well-known MCU insider My Time to Shine Hello, which is similar to past reports of at least four of the roles. We have Adam Driver as Reed Richards, Margot Robbie as Sue Storm, Paul Mescal as Johnny Storm, and David Diggs as Ben Grimm. And there's an image of them here. I heard the first three before. Yeah, particularly Margot Robbie and Driver as Reed. Those aren't exactly new. Those Driver as Reed's been floating around for quite a while. And Margot Robbie, look, I like Margot Robbie fine. She's a decent actress, but does she have to be in everything? It's like she's the only blonde actress in Hollywood now somehow. But Daveed Diggs is new to me. The Hamilton actor has been busy the past few years, including a lot of voiceover work. Most recently in The Little Mermaid as Sebastian. Oh, is that him as Sebastian? Given that Grimm's thing would be a lot of voice work and probably motion capture, his casting would make a certain amount of sense given his history as of doing voiceover. Adam Driver and Margot Robbie are about as A-list as you can get right now. This would be a big jump from DC, where Robbie has played Harley Quinn in 3 films, now playing an essential Marvel hero instead. Reed Richards has probably been the most debated role for all those among fans, and again, we'd have an interesting switch from Driver moving from Disney Star Wars to as Kylo Ren to Disney's Marvel. I mean, overall, I mean, my view on this, my take on basically is, well, it could have been worse. I mean, Driver's Reed, I mean, that's okay. And Margot Robbie, again, I like Margot Robbie. Honestly, I'm just getting tired of seeing her. She's in every other movie that gets released, it seems like. I would have preferred somebody maybe that would be a fresher face. Paul Mescal, now the guy's playing Human Torch and the Thing. I'm not really familiar with Paul Mescal. I don't know. I mean, I guess. I don't know. I had heard that Austin Butler was being considered for Johnny Storm, and I really wish that he had gotten the role. I think he would have been perfect. He would have been about as perfect as you could get. Mescal, I don't know. He'll probably be okay. Honestly, I'm just surprised that this many white people are in the cast. I mean, I expected like at least 2 of them to be not white, but David Diggs is the Thing. Uh, I mean, I'm not thrilled, honestly. Not thrilled with his casting as Ben Grimm. But again, I mean, I guess it could have been worse. I mean, I had heard that there was a rumor they were gonna race or gender flip the Thing, and the Thing was gonna be female. And, at least they didn't do that. And as much as I would have preferred to maybe have a white actor playing the Thing, I will say that at least it isn't gonna be frickin' Seth Rogen, because I had heard it might be Seth Rogen for a while too, and honestly, at this point, I think I'd take Daveed Diggs over Rogen. Rogen's another Hollywood actor I'm sick of, I'm tired of, and I don't wanna see him in anything else. So, I don't know, overall, I mean, I'm not thrilled, but it's kinda like, yeah, okay, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. Alright, I'm at 8:10. Do I wanna do anything else? Uh, okay, let me do one more. So, or actually, maybe it's two more. So, this is from the Los Angeles Times. Marvel is doing fine for now, but some LA area fans are at a tipping point. Kristen Peraz still gets teary when she talks about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. As co-owner of Jeffrey's Hi-De-Ho Comics in Santa Monica, the oldest comic book shop in LA County, Peraz has heard just about every conceivable opinion on the MCU. Launched with Iron Man in 2008, the Marvel Studios juggernaut has produced 31 films, 8 TV series, plus 2 specials, and 12 more related special shows during the Marvel television era. Garnered 26 Oscars, garnered 26 Oscars and 42 Emmy nominations, and earned more than 28 billion at the global box office. It's been celebrated as the catalyst for a new golden age of superhero storytelling and derided as a glorified assembly line of content. Lately, it has become an object of concern. Is Marvel in its flop era a rut? Is it dying? Not if you ask Paraz. I want to see more of the same, she says, citing both Black Panther and Spider Man Into the Spider Verse for centering superheroes who are also people of color. With Spider Man's Miles Morales in the books, you don't see the embracing of his Latin side the way he did in the movie. Just to sit in the movie theater, I'm going to get misty now. Oh, come on. And hear Miles speak Spanish like that was a big deal. I was so happy. A commitment to diversity and inclusion in super affairs is just part of Marvel's track record. Indeed, from interviews with loyal fans, analysis of box office returns, and other measures of audience demand, examination of the film's critical reception, and more, the picture that emerges of the Marvel Cinematic Universe is not of a franchise in crisis. Still, at a moment when both parent company Walt Disney and the industry as a whole are in flux, creative missteps, personnel issues, labor disputes, and overexposure have demonstrably weakened the dominant force in American pop culture and raised questions about whether the franchise has reshaped Hollywood in the last 15 years can sustain that influence over the next 15. Bring this up. All right. Though hand wringing over the state of Marvel has become de rigueur, one group of Marvel watchers doesn't seem terribly surprised or worried about the franchise's stumbles. Its fans. After all, they contend the studio's recent fourth and current fifth phases came after the completion of the long gestating Infinity Saga, which turned culminating crossover movie Avengers Endgame into a nearly $3 billion smash. The emotional connection that you have to Infinity War and Endgame is the result of 10 years of investment, says Lawrence Persky, owner of P. Dots Comics in Pasadena. Now we're getting into a situation where they're kind of restarting the storytelling and they're planting seeds again for a different branch or a different tree of story. And while we are impatient and we want the immediate payoff, we're comparing what's being planted to the trees that have already sprouted. You have to remain patient. You have to see where it goes. The COVID 19 pandemic also contributed to the sense that the franchise is on its heels. At a time of uncertainty about movie theater safety and experimentation with simultaneous theatrical and streaming releases, three of 2021 releases, Black Widow, Shang-Chi, and Eternals, fell short of the lofty expectations set by previous Marvel fare, despite performing well in circumstances. In the early days of theaters reopening, some of the biggest films were Marvel films, says Gitesh Pandya of BoxOfficeGuru.com. I don't think the MCU has necessarily jumped the shark. They've just been affected by the pandemic and the year or whatever of quarantine and not going anywhere, said Alicia Soul, an employee at Comics Factory in Pasadena. They lost momentum. Everyone wanted to go see Black Widow, and then the pandemic hit. Everyone goes into lockdown, and then the only way you can see it is on Disney Plus. Although the box office uncertainty caused by the pandemic is on the wane, it has been swiftly replaced by uncertainty of another, perhaps more intractable sort, tumult within Marvel Studios itself. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 filmmaker James Gunn is now chief co-executive at rival DC Studios after his initial firing from the film led him to helm 2021's The Suicide Squad. Longtime Marvel Studios producer and executive Victoria Alonso was abruptly fired in March. Loki and Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania star Jonathan Majors, who has been hyped up as the franchise's next big supervillain, is facing misdemeanor assault and harassment charges in New York. And visual effects artists have spoken out about working conditions on Marvel projects amid criticism of the film's quality. Marvel's foremost challenge now may be the one it created for itself, expanding an interconnected on screen world across the multiverse in a way that satisfies both MCU completists who want to be rewarded for faithfully tuning into every installment and occasional viewers who don't want to feel like they need to do homework before a night at the movies. The problems posed by this juggling act have only been confounded by the company's breakneck pace of production. In 2022, Marvel released 7 films and 8 series, leading to complaints that its storytelling had become directionless, disjointed, and even lazy. There have been exceptions, of course, such as Marvel's breakout hit WandaVision, which brilliantly melded the characters' comic book backstories with allusions to iconic sitcoms. But more than one study has found that even the most ardent Marvel watchers have begun to feel some fatigue in recent years with the seemingly never-ending flow of MCU content hitting theaters and Disney Plus. Yeah, and I talked about that in one of my live streams back, I don't know, I think it was at the end of December. It was like late December, early July, or early January, somewhere around in there. Though Marvel Studios chief Kevin Feige has largely rejected the idea of superhero fatigue, he has acknowledged that the sheer volume of films and TV series has made it more difficult for the company's output to hit the zeitgeist, and previewed a change to the pace of Disney Plus shows release that will allow them a better chance to shine. Data from Parrot Analytics, which measures audience demand for television and film by tracking a number of factors, also appear to show that the average audience demand for Marvel films has been declining. Spider-Man: No Way Home, the first Phase 4 Marvel movie release after pandemic shutdowns, attracted 263 times more demand globally than the average movie worldwide in the first 30 days following its release, according to Parrot. For February's Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, the first entry in Phase 5, the multiplier was just 93.3. That's still among the top 0.2% of movies across all platforms, but compared to Marvel's halcyon days, it amounts to a recession of interest. It just feels like this continuing grind of capitalism, essentially, with the whole universe, says Kinsey Bison, who works at Revenge of, a comic book shop and arcade in Eagle Rock. I find good stories I like, and there are some movies I enjoy, but I do feel like sometimes they're just more concerned with pumping out stuff to make money than actually caring about the world they're making. The consequences of this grind are not exactly dire. Marvel Studios had 4 of the top 10 domestic releases in 2022, and any decline in absolute terms took place against an overall box office that was down 44.1% from 2019. But both receipts and critical reception suggest that the MCU is not quite as bulletproof as it once was. The 2 sequels, Thor: Love and Thunder and Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, that concluded Phase 4, earned significantly less than their predecessors worldwide and came in with lower scores on review aggregation site Rotten Tomatoes. Andia, who points out that Love and Thunder was hurt by its exclusion from China's lucrative theatrical market, says Quantumania more clearly underperformed, grossing less than both previous Ant-Man films. The upfront demand was clearly bigger than Ant-Man 1 and 2. More people came out on opening weekend, but it eroded quickly. They liked it, but didn't love it. Fans didn't convince their friends to see it. Marvel fans are always there, and they just want good movies. Keeping the quality of the movies high is the most important thing. If that quality falls off, so will the box office. Not every MCU movie can be Black Panther, of course, and a film like the entertaining, adventurous Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is likely to dispel fears that Marvel is losing touch, at least for now. If the multiverse saga is to match the Infinity Saga at the box office with critics or with fans, however, the company will have to set its house in order, ensure that fans are going to the movies out of enthusiasm, not obligation, in Phase 5 and beyond. I've started to skip them, says Lucas Lee, another worker at Revenge of. I'm just kind of tired of going to see them just because they're Marvel movies, because it doesn't feel like the world exists. It just feels like there's so many coming out all the time. They're of dubious quality. I kind of feel guilty a little bit when I miss one, which I don't love that feeling because I know that I'm going to have to know what happened to that movie to even understand the next five. It makes me not want to go see any of them, even though I do. But I'm at that tipping point. Yeah, so I mean, this is just kind of reiterating, but superhero fatigue is a real thing. And I do think that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has kind of stopped the erosion, at least for a little while. But I don't think I don't think for a minute that Marvel's is going to do that well. I think that's really going to do poorly. And I forget what's coming out after that. Is Captain America 4 the next one after that? It might be. I'm not sure, but anyway, I'm going to go ahead and end this there. I've been going on an hour and 20 minutes. So I want to thank everyone who stopped by to listen during the stream. I also want to thank those who stopped by uh, or who will stop by afterwards to listen on a rewatch. And I hope you all have a good Memorial Day tomorrow. And I will see you all next time. Also, please consider subbing to the channel before you go. And have a good evening. Good night.